start. Hello, everyone. I'm Chip Rowe, the editor of the Highlands Current. We tonight have the two candidates for the mayor's position in the village of Cold Spring, Kathleen Foley and Vinny Tamagna. And I am first of all thank them for coming. I think this will really be helpful for people in the village, especially people who maybe have just moved here or aren't familiar with the two of you. The old timers, of course, know both of you, but the new people will have a chance to meet you and get to know you. So the way we sort of work this out, I asked for feedback from both candidates, how we could do this and get through a number of questions. And we kind of decided we would do 2-minute responses. So I'll ask the question, I'll alternate between the two who starts, and I'll keep an informal stopwatch. Try not to interrupt you, but I'll wait for you to pause and then I'll jump in. And then after the second person goes, we'll go back to the first person. If they want to spend 30 seconds to respond, I would just ask, the response be specific to something the other candidate said rather than attack on or something off the topic we're on. So those are the sort of ground rules. I will say if you're listening and you have an echo, this has come up in the past. If you're hearing an echo, it probably is because you have two browser windows open with the forum in both of them. So you should close one of the browser windows. I also should say for the record, I'm not a resident of the village. So I'm not going to be voting. And as a journalist, like all journalists, I'm completely neutral, as you know. Yeah. And I also should say I worked with, so Mike Turton, Liz Armstrong, and I kind of sat down to formulate the questions about topics that have come up in the last year or so in the village. To give the candidates a chance to discuss their views on them. So that said, we'll start with Kathleen, alphabetical order. And I thought first we'll just have, each candidate spend a couple of minutes discussing the qualifications, why they feel they're the best candidate for mayor, and I guess why you want to be mayor would be part of that. So Kathleen, why don't you start us off?
Sure, thanks, Chip. So I want to be mayor because I love this village. I deeply love this village. I am currently on the board of trustees. I came onto the village board in 2020, but I am certainly not new to Village Hall. I have been on a standing board and other boards in the village for 13 years. When my daughter was about a year old, I needed things to distract my mind from having a 1-year-old. And I got involved with the Historic District Review Board and served on it as a member and then as the vice chair for, like I said, 13 years. I've been involved with writing the tree ordinance in the village. I was involved on the special board and one of the committees of the comprehensive plan. I volunteered with the Tots Park. I am a class parent at Haldane. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I'm kind of all over the village because I need to be. I'm committed to this village because I'm raising my children here. We're here for the long term. And I'm ready to do the work. I am ready to put myself completely into this work. I have the support of my family, and I'm ready to lead the village with our neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And now we'll go to Vinny. I should, I guess, repeat the questions for you each time. So we're just asking to introduce yourself, discuss your qualifications, why you feel you're the best candidate, and why you want to be mayor.
Well, first of all, I love the village. I have great passion to do things to bring this village to the next level. We have so many things that we can do, and I'm really running for mayor because it's almost a legacy for me. I've dedicated my life to public service. I was your legislator for 18 years. I have been on the administrative side of county government. I have done consulting. I've been in the private sector as a project manager. I go from experience in construction and facilities to county government, and really think that we can make a difference. I have a network in place, and I know that I can bring a lot of our projects, our infrastructure projects, to where they need to be to improve the quality of life for all of our residents.
Okay, thank you very much, Vinny. So let's start, come back to you, Vinny, for the next one. So this is about parking, big issue in the village. The parking committee has recently presented a plan to the village board to add metered parking on Main Street on weekends and holidays, create a residential permit program that would include renters east of the Metro North tracks, would also include free parking areas and to reserve parking on the Boulevard and Kemble Avenue for business owners and employees. So I would just like to hear your thoughts on the plan as it's presented. Is it fair? Will it work? Or are there other things that could be done, with the parking congestion problem?
So first, I want to thank the volunteers, Jack, and the people who worked very hard on this. As I understand it, we're going to have a package once the new mayor gets to Village Hall that is ready to go. I think what we need to do is we need to try what we have, knowing that a lot needs to be probably adjusted as we go through the process of seeing there are unintended consequences to everything that we do in government. And so one of the things that I know that there are tweaks. For instance, Springbrook Apartments down in that area. There's a real problem with residents parking down there. Many of them have the one spot, and much more is needed. So what is the resident sticker program going to be, and where? Also, the putting the residents first to be sure that parking is three-pronged. I think we addressed one of them, and that's the tourist parking. But we have to put our village residents first. And so I want to take a look at, are we going to be moving people to streets where there aren't meters, for instance, Constitution Drive or some of the other areas? And so there's some issues that we need to look at. Certainly nothing is perfect, but hands-on, I think that we can make the adjustments that are needed, and at least it's a start.
Thank you. Kathleen?
So the parking committee that came together did work very, very hard. They were given specific questions and a specific timeline. They met the deadlines they were given, and they came up with good solutions. I will say it was also a very democratic process. There were 3 public meetings throughout the process in which feedback was given by villagers, people who live on Main Street, people who live on these surrounding streets, business owners. And I was very impressed with the way the committee responded to feedback and modified the application to improve it over time. We have to start somewhere. We live in a village that was designed before cars. We don't have enough linear feet of street for all of the vehicles we have here. We certainly live in a place that was designed for maybe no cars, and now some families have 2 and 3 cars. The real challenge is down here on Lower Main Street, especially on crowded weekends. We have streets in the upper village that are empty while folks are looping and circling down here on Lower Main Street. And that causes pedestrian hazard. We also really have to think about the carbon footprint of cars turning and looping around and around and around in the village. So yes, we do need to implement. We do need to monitor to see what works and what doesn't work, but we must do something. We can't push it down the road any longer, and we must identify revenue sources for the village. And this is very low-hanging fruit. It's time. We've talked about metering for a long time. It's time to do it. I'm committed to implementing the recommendations of the plan.
Okay, thank you. I guess, Vinny, do you want to address anything that Kathleen said there? Or?
The only thing that I'd really like to add to that is, I don't think that the residents should be paying for the main, the tourists. So part of the law right now is, okay, so every resident has to go get a resident permit, and there's a charge. I think we need to just kind of look at it. They already pay taxes here. Certainly, maybe some kind of a resident sticker at no charge. I don't know. I want to take a look closer at what the revenue means, but we're looking at pennies here, and we really need thousands of dollars to do the work that needs to be done with our infrastructure.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'll go to Kathleen now with the next question. The geography of Putnam County sometimes makes it feel like there is a western and an eastern part divided by the Taconic, I guess. And Larry Burke, who's the police officer in charge, recently said that the village can feel like the lost stepchild in Putnam. This had to do with the cameras, the cameras that went up. Mm-hmm. And so I wondered if you have any ideas or thoughts, what might be done to strengthen the relationship between the village and the legislature in Carmel.
Sure. Well, I think we first have to recognize the work of Legislator Montgomery, who is tireless in her efforts with the legislature. She is pulling back the curtain on what happens in Carmel. We know now more about what actually happens with our tax dollars that we don't get back and how they're wasted. It's tough. It's tough to be, we are largely blue in a red county, and I think that is an unfortunate and time-wasting element that separates. But it's funny, regardless of what the legislators do and what the county executive does, it is happening very organically, the reach across the county. The not-for-profit and private organizations that are building ties east to west are building community east to west. So things like Sustainable Putnam, efforts to come together around supporting our police officers on both sides of the county. Those things are building community together, and out of community comes a sense of investment. And with a sense of investment, people engage in government more. They're able to speak to their needs and really demand what it is that they need in their communities. So I am really looking forward to this growing bottom-up approach that I think is very healthy and very needed. We need more people engaged at the county level, asking the hard questions, as our legislator does and as our current village board and town board have done.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
So Vinny, your turn.
Can you please repeat the question?
Of course, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the geography of Putnam County sometimes makes it feel like there's a western and eastern part divided by the Taconic. And Larry Burke had made the comment that we sometimes feel like lost stepchildren in the village. So I just wondered what ideas or thoughts you might have on strengthening that relationship between Cold Spring and Carmel, distant Carmel sort of thing, where the legislature meets.
Sure. So one of the things that I want to say is that, first of all, I have had 25 years plus experience working with many, many great people in Carmel, county executive, legislators, past, present, all kinds of nonprofits, and going out even outside of that into the state and federal realm of having support and experience. And so I don't see it as a divide. I think that we need to build bridges. We need to stop going in with a bat and a club and trying to get what we want because we want it, and present a plan and develop coalitions. What I would suggest is a mayoral roundtable with the two mayors, with the mayor of Nelsonville, the town supervisor, and even my good friend Sam Oliverio, who will be leaving this year. But to bring Western Putnam together, because we do have different needs, that's for sure, and a different character of community from east to west. But I don't think that it's adversarial. I don't think it has to be adversarial. And I think that you get a lot more when you present a firm plan. And that you, this past week, or last week, I went to a legislative meeting, and we had a need for Constitution Island to help with, we're reopening an island finally, and the next year is going to be an exciting year for us. So much like the Putnam History Museum and the Southeast Museum, I asked the county for some support. We got it. You have to ask, and you have to present a plan that makes sense. It's not an open checkbook. And I've found that there are very reasonable people there. And I look forward to working with all of those relationships to bring much more to the village of Cold Spring.
Thank you, Vinny. So Kathleen, is there anything you wanted to respond to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think folks who are here on the ground and actually doing the work on this side of the county and in Phillipstown know that the mayors, the trustees in the villages, and our board of trustees work very well together. We work frequently. We talk almost on a daily basis. So that is happening, and that's not a new idea. The challenge of Putnam County is that unfortunately it's who you know. And part of getting things seems to involve the favors that come in return. And on this side of the county, we do like our government in the open, in public. We are not interested in patronage in our government, and we want to make sure that our money is being spent wisely. So I'm really pleased for Constitution Island. I'd like to see us have paratransit services on this side of the county. I'd like our seniors to be getting fresh meals cooked here in our senior center. I would like women's services. I'd like to see the DMV. Those were all things that were promised when the Butterfield development was coming, and here we are still all these years later without the county services. Why is it that we have to beg? And if that is something that Mr. Tamagna is dedicated to doing, I ask, why haven't you?
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. So let's move on to the next question. Vinny, you're up now. So in August, the village board adopted regulations of short-term rentals, such as those. There's like trigger words in my questions. Such as short-term rentals, such as those booked through Airbnb. The regulations limit the number of short-term rentals allowed in the village through a permit system and also impose other restrictions. The vote was 3-2. Kathleen, you were in the negative on that vote. And passions have been very high on this issue, with some residents saying they plan to defy the law. So Vinny, I just wonder, what is your view of the regulations, of the idea that Airbnbs should be regulated? Do we need regulation? There's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, so let me start out by saying I think first, well-established property rights are essential to success of any economic system and in any community. And this is going on. I've been following it. Dutchess County did a wonderful job. Saratoga Springs has done great work. Overall, back in 95 and 96, we started tourism in Putnam County, and we said that Cold Spring is the gateway to tourism. And tourism and the tourism industry supports all of our businesses on Main Street. But again, we have to go back to our residents. And we will realize that many are going to come here for many, many, many years to come. It's just a beautiful spot, probably the most beautiful place in the entire world. So we have to develop enforceable rules. I followed rules when I went to visit my son in Florence. We all follow rules, whether it's you have to show your passport when you get there or whatever it is. The rules have to be followed. We have to know who's here. We also have to make sure that we protect and that we preserve the character of our community. It can't just be, yeah, sure, let's do it, because really what we're operating are businesses. Now, if there's a resident in the business, that's different than somebody that's just going to buy some homes and develop businesses. And there's also a whole bunch of other considerations, that of volunteers and being able to find rental properties. And there's just so many things. I think we have a good start. Again, I think that we're going to be able to tweak and we're going to be able to listen to both sides of the issue. Again, I don't think that there's a need to reinvent the wheel. And I finally don't know that it's not even appropriate for us to develop a hospitality tax to be paid by the guest, so that we talk about revenue, that we get revenue. People are going to come here. And if we're going to share this beauty, we should really be collecting some of the dollars and doing what we need to do.
So just ask to clarify. So you don't oppose having regulations, but you do foresee that they might be tweaked.
Yes. And I think only because there's a lot that needs to be considered. We have to analyze the impacts on traffic, fire, police, transient, weekly, monthly emergency services, sewer, water, noise. We're going to learn about all of this. And so we go quarter by quarter. building safety. I mean, there's so many things to consider, and I'm very, very interested in making sure that we stay on it. And then maybe we need to figure out something different than the lottery, or maybe we need to make the number of allowed residents participating larger. But I think we're going to learn a lot about that.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. So Kathleen, do you want me to read the
No,
read
I've got it.
You're
No problem.
familiar.
So I would just point out that villages in New York are not enabled to conduct taxation. That happens through the county. The county does not share sales tax with us currently. So if the county could see its way to sharing tax, or at least sharing the growth, that would be brilliant, because we need those dollars back.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know if the hotel tax is
that
the
would be a
same
county
thing as
levy
sales.
tax.
Is it just like the sales tax? They can't, or would it be? I'm sorry, I'm getting diverted here, but would a hotel
Are you
tax?
asking me or
be-
asking Mr. Tamagna?
No, I'm asking you. I don't know if you know, but would a hotel tax work just like a sales tax?
So as far as I'm aware, the village does not have capacity for taxation at the local level. The county does, right? The state enables legislation. I did, as part of the work on the short-term rental law, I did propose a tourism impact fee that would be part of each of the permits. That was roundly rejected by my colleagues, alas. But I thought that was a direct way through this process to create a revenue source for the village to help offset the infrastructure impacts of tourism and the quality of life impacts of tourism. I hope that we can return to that as we do tweak that law. I'd like to explain my vote. I very much support reasonable regulation of short-term rentals. However, I think that the law in its current form is overly complicated. I think it's going to be very difficult to implement and difficult to enforce. We're going to do our best with that. And I think it's going to be a very steep learning curve. I certainly would like people to be complying with the law and making applications. But I also want to work side by side with people who are running short-term rentals to get feedback on how we can do a better job. This is the one opportunity, because the county does not share sales tax, this is the one opportunity for residents here in the village to participate in the tourist economy by using their homes as rentals. I am very concerned, however, and I think the strength of this law is the protection of rental housing. I'm concerned about housing supply and housing affordability because villagers are concerned about it. And I think that needs to be the basis of considerations going forward.
So I guess, the same thing I kind of asked Vinny, you're not against the concept of regulation of some kind of Airbnb?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. But I think that, in order for people to actually participate, it needs to be, and for them to make the attempt to comply, it needs to be easy. And this is very complex. The lottery is very complex. The application is very complex. The spacing is very complex. And the easier we can make it for people to come in out of the cold and be part of the process, so we're sure that units are being inspected, that renters are safe, that neighborhood impacts are mitigated, that is much better. So we want people to participate in a clear and understandable process that benefits them as well.
I didn't mean to rush on the hotel tax, but I wrote a column about it, and I talked to Mary Ellen, and I just don't, it seems to me like that's a simple way if you're going to have it, the village, or not just our village, but everybody should be paying a hotel tax.
That requires partnership. That requires partnership and the county's willingness to share.
Well, Airbnb collects it, but where they send it, I think they send it in Dutchess to the county, and the county just
exactly.
So it's complicated.
And Dutchess has an excellent partnership with its municipalities.
Yeah. But that's my column was more about why aren't somebody's charging them? Why aren't people charging a hotel tax wherever it ends up? It seems like that's what it is. So Vinny, did anything Kathleen said, do you want to?
Yeah, I did actually. A couple of things. So first, Kathleen was on the board through this whole discussion and dialogue. And I think there's an opportunity when you're working as a group and a team to fix things. If there are some issues that are there, let's talk about them. Let's not wait till it passes as a law or surprise 3 other members of the board. I mean, when I've worked on boards and we do a lot of work to make sure that there's something that everybody agrees to, and that it's as solid as it could be for the people that are out there. And then we have an excellent relationship, at least if I'm mayor, with the county. And so I think that whether it's a hospitality charge, or and we could collect it ourselves, or whether it's we find out how Airbnb reports to the county, we will do what we need to do to get our fair share back here again.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see. I do have a lot of trigger words, I'm sorry. So Kathleen, we're starting with you on this one.
Okay. Did I not go last time?
Oh, no, Vinny went first, didn't he?
Yeah,
Am I mixed up?
No, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Who went first last time? I had Vinny down. Oh, no, sorry, you did. You're right. So Vinny goes first.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My bad. So in July, the village board voted to opt out of a state law that would allow retail sales and on-site consumption of marijuana. Instead, a referendum will appear on the ballot, for the villagers to have their input. And marijuana, like alcohol, is now a legal product. And so I just am curious what your position is on that. Should retail sales, on-site consumption be allowed in Cold Spring?
Okay, well, we have an issue in Cold Spring. I think it's unique. We're such a small geographic boundary from our school. And one of the things that I really consider is proximity to our students. You know, you walk around and wouldn't it be something if there was a dispensary next to Cold Spring Pizza? I mean, and we have children or students who go and walk from Haldane, and there it is. I think there's a lot to still be flushed out with regard to where they belong. I don't necessarily think that within the proximity of the village of Cold Spring it's there, but having said that, it's up to the voters, and I'm very glad to be able to let's see how it works out on the ballot. I would encourage everybody to make sure that they find the box on the ballot, and please vote how it is that you feel. Again, I think that it's kind of a slippery slope on things, and likewise with the CBD that's sold in some of our institutions. I mean, you know what? There's a social risk, and I like to be very careful as a leader to protect the health and the welfare of our youngest, especially in the community.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. So Kathleen, would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
My colleague, Trustee Woods, and I pressed very hard for this to go to referendum because I felt that this decision is too important to be up to 5 people at a table. I think that every voter needs to have a say in this question. My own reason as an elected official for wanting to opt out at this point is that I think that the regulatory details at the state level, both from a taxation and from a distribution standpoint, have not been fully worked out. You can call the comptroller's office and they're hard pressed to explain to you how this seed to sale formulation works for tax. I think that we have the option to opt in later if the community would prefer to do that. I would like to see us hold and let the state get its regulatory house in order before we even consider sales. In terms of kids being able to access marijuana, we do, under this new law, it's legal to have 5 pounds of marijuana in your home. So I think parents need to be making sure if they're having it at their home, their kids aren't getting it there. That to me seems like a bigger danger than a regulated shop on Main Street. We have regulated wine shops on Main Street that don't sell to children. Marijuana shops under the law will not be able to sell to children. Having said that, I do think that the right thing for the village to do as a municipality is to hold and see some of these regulatory things shake out and also see what the impacts are on municipalities around us. In terms of consumption, I mean, personally, I would prefer that we didn't have on-site consumption in the village. I think there are higher and better uses of our main street than on-site marijuana consumption. But you know what? We live in a capitalist economy, and the market will drive.
Okay, thank you. Vinny, is there anything there you wanted to respond to?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So now I go to Kathleen first.
Okay, I'm ready.
It seemed like a simple job for me just to keep track of who went first, but so the Cold Spring Police Department costs the village about, if I was reading the budget correctly, $433,000 annually, which is about 17% of the $2.5 million budget. And over the years, we have covered this several times in my tenure. Some people have argued that, the police force is redundant, largely redundant. We have a sheriff's substation in Nelsonville. We have the New York State Police here. And so I wondered what your view is, I guess, on the need for a police agency in the village.
And this is for me, yes?
Yes, that's for you. Sorry.
Well, I can say I am deeply committed to having a locally accountable police force, accountable to our elected officials and accountable to our residents. I want a police force that knows our residents, knows our children. The Cold Spring Police Department does know our community and know our children. We did a survey in the spring, and indeed, our village is largely supportive of our police officers. Sure, there are things that can be done better, but people feel safe with the police force here. I don't want the village to be waiting for someone to drive from another side of the county. I want officers here who can respond in a moment's notice, and our officers do. And it's easy to think of Cold Spring as Maybury, but if you were on the village board last night, you will have heard that we had an arrest following a check cashing crime that resulted in the confiscation of crack cocaine. We are bisected by a state road. We are the site of large crowds with tourism. We have traffic and crowds to manage. And we have the same real life social issues that exist in other places. We have an officer in charge, Officer Larry Burke, who is an incredibly ethical and good man. He hires good officers. The quality of our officers increases all the time. We've made some fantastic recent hires. And Larry is committed to this community, and he's committed to community participation. We have an officer in charge who is asking for community engagement and is willing to listen to the community. And really, there couldn't be a better scenario. So I am committed to a Cold Spring Police Department. Yes. Okay,
thank you. Vinny, do you want me to repeat the question? My questions are.
No, I think I have this.
Okay.
I'm okay. Okay. I of course support our local police, and Larry Burke does do a wonderful job. As the rector's warden at St. Mary's, just the corner of traffic there when we have our modern makers market and the things that are done, it goes a long way. I think that all budgets need to be reviewed. We have to look at overtime. We need to look at how to make sure that they have the training that they need, as well as the equipment that they need. I have to tell you.
We're talking about the police.
My apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
One of the things that I want to know that's happening is the streaming. I can't hear sentences completely. So, and Kathleen at one point went like I could just see green. So it's the streaming here, and that's another issue to put on our list. If either of us become mayor.
Internet.
Anyway, so I think I said pretty much what I wanted to say. I think that we need to make sure that we give the tools, the equipment, and then the other thing that I did want to say is to look for the partnerships, so that if we're going to manage the budget, and this would be Larry Burke's decision on a lot of this, but to bring REACT in, which I have. REACT is a wonderful volunteer organization in Putnam County to help with traffic control when we have 4th of July parades and we have other things that happen. And also to take a look at maybe what we can do with our sheriff's department to partner and to really let people know what's going on. Very often, I don't think that everybody knows when there's going to be a big event. So to kind of do the reach out and maybe even a year or 6 months in advance to try to get the help that our local Cold Spring Police Force needs. There's a tremendous burden on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. So Kathleen, is there anything?
Just a couple of quick things. Of course, when you're mayor, you need to know the structure of village departments. We don't have overtime. We have all part-time officers, so there is not an overtime expense in the budget. And I will also congratulate REACT. Those were the folks who, if you were immunized at the rec center, they were the folks who were moving crowds through traffic to get shots. They were here on Community Day and they were fantastic. So shout out to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that is, we've gone pretty well here. I think that's all I have, but I would like to give you both an opportunity to, I guess, present a closing statement. And we will, I should remind people that Monday, right? Monday is the last day to request an absentee ballot.
Right, the 18th.
The election is November 2nd. That's a good date to know as well. And we are going to try it at the current over the next few weeks. We're trying to arrange more of these forums, which I found fascinating and very interesting. We're going to try to do more of these forums. At the very least, we will send questions to candidates to have written responses. Sometimes it's just trying to schedule multiple people. When we only have 2, it's a little easier. But so we'll be doing that over the next few weeks before the November 2nd election. So I think it is, I am so confused. I think Vinny goes first now, right? Vinny,
go ahead.
So
absolutely.
2 minutes or so for a closing statement. I'll go to Kathleen. There won't be any response. We'll just we'll give you some time to make your case.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank the Highland Current for organizing the debate, for all of the virtual viewers, and for the people who are going to watch us after. Thank you for taking the time. I'd also like to pay tribute. I had a great opportunity to work with him, and his whole thing was about public forum and debate. And so thank you. You know, there's a great deal at stake here in this mayoral election. You know, I think it comes down to, for me anyway, I want to be the mayor because I want to unite the community. I want to collaborate with our friends over in county government and state government and federal government. And you know, I have the experience to do all that, and I have the network to do that. And I'll work very hard for you. You know, I've worked for you before for 18 years, and I was your legislator, quite a successful run of things. And no, I didn't bring almost $2 million in by myself. I did it with a team of people that believed in the same vision that I did, and I'm going to bring that back again. I'm humbled as I go around talking to people, and I know the support is there. People remember me, know how hard I work. And I know that the whole Better Together team is going to work as a team, and that we're going to work very hard. Catherine, Fatty, Yaslin Daniels, Jeff Phillips, the whole team. We want to get in there, and we want to make this a neighborly community, a community that's together, and a community that can accomplish things. Let's use the talent that's out there. There's so much, and I know we have before, but let's build on it. Let's build on it. You know, I understand some of us have been here for generations. Some of us have just found this is an awesome place to live. Welcome to everybody. Let's get to work. I think the one thing that we all want the same thing, is we want a village government that works for the people. And I will be there. It's a legacy for me. Again, as I go and I get ready to retire, after 25 years, I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that we address the riverfront, the water supply, the dam, our infrastructure. That's a $4 million project we didn't even talk about, but it's something that, again, connections that I have with the DEP, I know will go a long way in helping there. Our Airbnb regulations, parking regulations, all that. And I want to thank Mayor Morandi, Trustees Early and Murphy for giving us a firm foundation on which to build. We have so much. We talked about Airbnb. Kathleen even agreed that, yes, we have a start. Parking, we have a start. There are great things that we have that we could start with. Look at how we can build with those and make this the most vibrant community in the Hudson River Valley.
Thank you very much, Vinny, and thank you for being here. And so we'll turn to Kathleen for your last statement.
Well, I'd like to thank the Current also, and I'm really pleased that Vinny recognized Gordon. I think we all miss him a lot, and he set the stage and the environment in which forums like this could happen. And the Current, of course, does a critical job. We're really lucky. We're lucky on so many levels in Cold Spring, but we're really lucky here to have local coverage of local issues. So many communities have lost their local papers. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your infrastructure series. It's all just great work. I also want to say that I'm here tonight on Main Street. I'm right across the street, Chip. I'm at Supplies for Creative Living and Now in Bloom on Main Street, two of our women-owned businesses, and I'm here with supporters. I'm really happy to have them here with me and have their encouragement. Part of one of the things about this village is you got to be here. And Vinny, you were on our legislature for a long time. I think most of us haven't seen you in the village since you last came to advocate for the Butterfield development. So it's nice to see you back in the village, but the Forge Ahead team has been here all along. People know us on the street, they know us on the sidewalks, and we're engaged with community in a real way, with sleeves rolled up. And we bring that love and dedication to the table. People know us because we are here on the street. So we are very much looking forward to working in a real participatory way, welcoming people to the table, taking real advantage of the expertise and the brilliance that is in this community, and getting people who know a lot about things. The best thing you can say as a leader is, teach me what you know more than I do. So let's get those folks at the table, have them engaged, and actually listen to them, actually implement the smart recommendations that are being made. The village, the more people we have engaged in the village, the better it will be. And I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to work hard, and I show up.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for being here as well. I hope this was useful to the voters. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate. Like I said, I'm not voting in this, so hopefully this conversation and dialogue was useful to the people watching who will vote. And thank you so much for being here, and we will keep looking at the Current. We'll keep you up to date on the next one we do. Well, we'll do next one. Actually, we have Yaslin Daniels and Tweeps Phillips Woods next Wednesday night. Since they are going head to head, it's so confusing for some people because they're going head to head, and then the other three trustee candidates are vying for 2 seats. So just to keep that straight, but we'll have the first two, the 2 candidates going for 1 seat next week at the same time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you, Chip. Good night, Vinny.
Good night.